Hello, my name is Josiah Cito. I mean, I guess right off the bat, I would, heterosexual or straight. I will jokingly call myself emo, but I mean, there is that. What's the word? Risk taking. I like to take risks. So I feel like that should be a label as well. And imaginative, creative, that kind of thing. Sometimes inventive. Witty. Witty's a really good one, or sarcastic, as I've been called. Yeah, those are some that I can think of right now.
My name is Max with 2 X's. I identify as a pansexual, polyamorous, transgender male.
My name is David Michalik. I identify as a nerd, primarily. I'm bi, I'm agender, chill. I'll put that label on me. Yeah.
I'm Ciara Shillette. I am currently between using the label of bisexual and lesbian. I am a vegetarian.
Eleanor Hanley. I am a transgender female. I identify as bisexual.
My name is Katrina Rose Merrick. I identify as a butch lesbian woman.
My name is Netra Petty. I am a black human that identifies as a bi female, and I am also bipolar.
Hi, my name is Cassie White. White female who is questioning her sexuality. I'm not really sure where that's at. I think it's on a spectrum, so it's hard for me to label that. I'm also Catholic too.
Hello, I am Brittany. I identify as a gray asexual, gay, non-binary person who is disabled.
My name is Lex Demarest. I just identify as a female, I guess. Pretty generic when it comes to what you can be.
My name is Abby Haddis. I identify with the labels like queer, transgender, awesome, weird, pansexual, bi, gay, poly, nerdy, tall.
My name is Justin Kleckner, and I consider myself bisexual.
Hi, I'm Rebecca, and I identify as a bisexual cis woman.
I think labels to a degree are important, but excessive labeling is not necessarily okay because it could make someone feel a bit too categorized.
Labels show difference in humanity, which is important and also bad. Because when you specify differences, then you are separating people into groups. But if you wouldn't acknowledge the differences, then you are acting as if all people are the same, which is incorrect.
I think labels are necessary and really vital to a lot of queer people's existence. I think there's been a move against labels, but for me, finally finding something that I can put my hat on and say, okay, like this is me, like this is what I've got going on. Like for me, it came in, the form of a diagnosis, which a lot of people don't necessarily like, and I understand why, but I went to a pediatric gender clinic and they said, oh, well, you have gender dysphoria. It's a hormone disorder related to puberty. And I'm like, oh shit, like that makes sense, and for me, that kind of quantitative, like, this is what I am, helps me deal with the problems that come out of who I am a lot better.
I think given human nature and the way that people are, labels are very important. And I know that for me personally, it was important to find a label because I felt like there was a name for what I was and the things that I was experiencing. And even though labels can be used in a shallow manner, they're also a way of building community, and community is one of the most important things that you can establish to prove to yourself and to others that you're not alone in this world and this is where you belong.
It's important to know like what your label is, to understand like where is a safe space.
I think labels are super necessary because like talking to people that identify different in gender or something like that, having that labeled for them means something more, I think, than someone who identifies as cisgender. Like that label is whatever to me, but being able to put yourself in a place where it's like, yes, that's what I am. Oh, it's so good to have a name. I think is really important.
I mean, obviously people can choose not to like use a label, but that's totally fine and valid for them. But as someone who didn't understand why I didn't like sex or didn't want to sleep with people, and then to finally, as a 20-year-old person, find out that there was a word for that, it was very empowering to me. So like, it depends, because like I like them, but some people, I know various people who are like, I don't want to do that, and that's fine and cool and quirky and fun and fantastic, but I need them. I need them.
I think labels in and of themselves have power. You know, like when I say I am transgender, I'm claiming that for myself. But if someone goes like, oh yeah, she's a bitch, they're labeling me and then thus giving me an attribute that I wouldn't necessarily claim.
Try not to put labels on others. If they give you a label, that's fine, but don't just assume, oh, this person is X, Y, and Z just based on how you perceive them, because they could be something completely different.
I feel like they could definitely help people like learn more about each other, but at the same time they can be used poorly against one another, because if people usually like people like consider bisexual or gay wrong, then they will treat somebody differently because they use that label.
I think that labels are important to people who want to associate with labels, such as being bisexual or lesbian or gay or whatever. I guess it depends on who you are, because I know several people who don't feel comfortable using labels because they fear being stigmatized and just want to be known as simply people, which is respectable.
Labeling yourself is okay, but also not labeling yourself is okay.
So if we lived in a world without labels and I was no longer a transgender female who's also bisexual, who's diagnosed with gender dysphoria and a hormone disorder related to puberty, I don't think I would be Eleanor Hanley. I think I would be Eleanor Hanley minus any clarity about who she is. I don't like labeling people, but if they tell me a label, you know, cool. I believe that identity is so important to every part of who we are that to remove a label almost removes part of your identity.
If people weren't so quick to put a label on something, there's a lot more freedom to express yourself, to express some aspect of your life. Just because if you didn't have a specific word, you can just be like, this is who I am. I think that would be really empowering. But at the same time, labels are important to just understand how the world works. So on one hand, there would be more freedom, but I feel like there would be a lack of understanding in some aspects.
It would definitely, I feel like people wouldn't be able to express themselves as well as they can now, but at the same time I feel like it might cause a lot less hatred since people are hating on people because they have these labels. If they didn't have these labels, there might be less hate because of that.
I feel like ever since the dawn of time, people have been labeling things, and everyone needs to know what things are. So I feel like the world would be kind of in a mess if we didn't have a label for something. Not necessarily people, but just like inanimate objects, like the grass, you know what I mean?
It'd suck. Because I think we inherently put ourselves together of labels. Like, I can't think of a single way to describe someone without using a label. Even a name is a label.
I feel like people would be more able to be themselves, I think, without being afraid to be categorized as someone else, as something else. And just in general, people would be more free to be who they are.
But I think if you were able to create a utopia or create like a new society with no sort of societal constructs or anything, that a world without labels would be possible. But that's just like not real, unless we found like a new planet. That's not like really a thing that you can do.
I think we like to categorize people. Whether that's good or bad, I don't really know, but I think it would definitely be a completely different world. So,
If we could have a society without labels, that means that everyone would be based off of their specific beliefs and their ideas, and off of them as a person, and things like their ethnicity, what's going on with them mentally or physically, or like their sexuality, it wouldn't matter, and so things would be a lot more equal.
For a really, really long time, I didn't know how to handle myself. I had a lot of internalized homophobia, and that wouldn't go away without labels, but I think that I would have come to terms with myself if I wasn't so strung up on, okay, either I'm straight or I'm gay. I have to pick one, and being confused because of that.
Without labels, I think the world would be more abstract, and you need to get to know people before knowing about them. But it would also be difficult to explain things.
But I think at the end of the day, I would much rather identify with something than to exist without an identity and allow people to surmise, I guess, for themselves, or, you know, I want people to know my identity. I don't want it to have to be something where people feel like they don't know anybody's identity.
I think that a world without labels would be a beautiful place where people could just be people and it didn't matter what they were, but it would also be a very empty place, because it would be a place where, in our desire to all be the same and not use labels to differentiate ourselves, we would lose our humanity and lose our individuality as people. We would just become like totems moving from place to place. But also I feel like that's kind of a moot point, because given the way that human society is and has developed, it's not really possible to create a world without labels. We've clung to them for so long that just saying like, oh, well, why do you have to be gay and I have to be straight? Why can't we just be people? Is erasing the fact that it's hard to be gay, it's hard to be a person of color, it's hard to be a gender that you weren't assigned, that you don't look like. And it's really important for people to identify that you're different and I'm different, but that's a good thing. And that's the most important part about our society as it is right now. So.
I'm Abby and I approve this message.